Good morning. எல்லாம் mic on.
Good morning to one and all present here. It gives me immense pleasure in inviting you all to the last day of the webinar series of 3 days online international workshop on methods of research in social science and humanities organized by the Center for Development Economic Studies, Chennai. I'm Lakshmi Pradhan and I would like to begin this beautiful day with a quote from Tirukkural, a classic couplets or kurals authored by the famous Tamil poet and philosopher Thiruvalluvar. தொட்டனை தோறும் மணற்கேணி மாந்தர்க்கு கற்றனை தோறும் அறிவு. Meaning, the deeper a well is dug, more the water that springs. Likewise, the more one learns, the more the wisdom it brings. To attain that wisdom, we are all gathered here during this lockdown usefully. On that note, let's look into the agenda for today's session. We have 2 sessions planned for this day of the international workshop, where we have Dr. Kishore Kulkarni, Distinguished Professor of Economics, Chief Editor, International Review of Business and Economics, College of Business, Metropolitan State University of Denver, USA, to elaborate on evaluation of research report and publication. And followed by him, we have Dr. Sarat Chandran, Professor of Economics, Goa University, to deliver his lecture on the title Tools and Techniques of Primary Data Analysis. I request all the participants join through Zoom to kindly mute yourself and help us in the smooth conduct of the program. Participants, you can share your questions using the chat box in both the Zoom and YouTube platform, which will be taken for discussion at the end of each session. The feedback link to claim your e-certificate will be shared towards the end of the second session in the chat box. I request all the participants to stay connected till the end. I deem it a privilege in introducing the first speaker for the day, Dr. Kishore Kulkarni. Dr. Kishore Kulkarni has been the Distinguished Professor of Economics at the Metropolitan State University of Denver, Colorado since 1989. As an adjunct professor, he has also taught at the University of Colorado, Boulder, Cornell School of International Studies at the University of Denver, Colorado State University, and Colorado School of Mines. Professor Kulkarni completed his BA in Economics with first rank in merit and MA in Economics with second rank in merit from then called the University of Pune, India. He migrated to USA in 1976 and completed MA and PhD in Economics from the University of Pittsburgh before entering into his passion of full teaching in 1980. His extraordinary teaching skills have brought him several teaching laurels, including 2001 Outstanding Teaching Award by the Golden Key International Honor Society, inclusion of his biography in Who's Who in the World, Who's Who Among America's Teachers in 1998, and Best Teaching Award by Student Economic Society in 2014. His simple and humorous teaching style made him get selected in the spring 1994 Voyage of the Semester at Sea program. He has also delivered many special lectures and seminars all over the world by traveling to roughly 30 countries. Dr. Kulkarni has been busy in publishing activities. He has authored 9 books, some of which have been famous textbooks adoptions in USA and Indian University. 6th edition of his macro textbook is published by Kendall Hunt Publishing Company in 2019. He has authored and co-authored 160 refereed journal articles which have appeared in renowned journals such as Global Business Review, Indian Economic Journal, Indian Journal of Economics, and many more journals in India and abroad. He has co-founded Indian Journal of Economics and Business and organized it for 15 long years from 2001 to 2016, which is now replaced by International Review of Business and Economics. For his numerous research activities, Dr. Kulkarni was recognized by Outstanding Faculty Researcher and Scholar Award by the Golden Key International Honor Society in 1997. In 2004, the Faculty Senate of the Metropolitan State University of Denver handed him Distinguished Service Award. It was followed by the Extraordinary Service Award by the University President in 2010. In 2012, the Dean of the College of Business recognized him as the first distinguished professor in College of Business. All of his research articles can be seen on the researchcreate.net. In May 2017, NRI Welfare Society of India honored him Pravasi Ratan Award. In March 2019, the Federation of Business Disciplines recognized him as the Outstanding Educator Award recipient. To carry out his research activities, he has held various research fellowships and has received many research grants from institutions such as Institute of Human Studies, Arlington VA, NIBM Pune, RBI Mumbai, IGIDR Mumbai. We are extremely happy to have Dr. Kulkarni joining us. Due to the time shifts between India and Colorado, this session was recorded previously for the convenience, and the participants can share the questions which will in turn be shared to the resource person through mail for clarifications.
Very good. Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody who is listening on this webinar. My name is Kishore. Last name is Kulkarni. As Dr. Sundaram may have introduced you about me, I'm a distinguished professor of economics in Metropolitan State University of Denver, Denver, which is in Colorado State, in United States of America, in USA. Or in America. And it is my very great pleasure to be here to be addressing all of you all the way from America because that gives me a chance to see and meet two of my very favorite people in Chennai, Dr. Sundaram and Dr. Gunasekaran. And because of them, I have decided to accept this invitation. All right. Well, I think the topic, those who invited me to talk here, they suggested, and I agreed, is about how we do the research so far, and how the research will be changed after coronavirus, and what is the impact of coronavirus on research methods, and how the research methods are supposed to be done in social sciences and in humanities. Well, you probably have heard about my background, that I have been running a journal as a chief editor of a journal for almost 20 years now. And in those 20 years, I have literally seen thousands of papers, and I have examined hundreds of PhD theses in last 25, 30 years, and which gives me some feel of how we have been doing research for such a long time. And generally speaking, when we come to the publications of articles in journals, the research methods are pretty well defined. Essentially, what one does is that they select a topic, and unless it is a very theoretically original piece of work, people take the theory from somewhere else and then test it with the data that they have, and then they find out whether the theory has any estimation value or a theory has any explanatory value in the real world. Because I know there are a lot of people, including me, who believe that just learning the theory is a pretty useless exercise. Theory by itself is not really a very useful thing, but when the theory is applied to reality, And if the real world problem can be solved by some theoretical argument, then that is the purpose of doing research. So in some ways, you can, not all of us can really come up with a new theory. Those who do a fantastic new theory and show that it is an applied theory, they obviously get the Nobel Prizes in sciences. We and we all cannot be in that category of originating new theory. So many times what authors do, I think about vast majority of researchers do, so far they have been doing, is that they take a theoretical argument and they build a model or explain a model or do a hypothesis, and that hypothesis testing is done by either a primary data or a secondary data. And by primary data we mean you actually go out and take the surveys that are related to this hypothesis, or you do a secondary data which are already published in some other journals and in some other sources, and you take that data and apply that to find that theory, and then you see whether that theory is really useful to show some light in reality or not. And if you are successful in doing that, I think well and good. Many times the theories don't really work in reality, and I always tell my students here in America that if the theory doesn't explain the reality, it is the fault of the theory. It is not your fault. So don't take it personally that if theory doesn't work, then don't feel bad, because it is not really you who is at fault. It is the theoretical argument that you had. And a vast majority of new research in behavioral economics, led by one of my good friend Raj Chetty in Harvard University, that behavioral economics is actually now testing the theory and proving exactly opposite of what many of the theoretical arguments were there before. And so behavioral economics is a big branch of testing that theory too. But all in all, I think what we are saying here is that so far a typical journal article would have 4 or 5 sections in it. And first one obviously will be the title, and then there will be abstract of the paper, because a lot of journals need an abstract done by you. They don't make an abstract, they want you to do abstract. So I would rather start a paper with a 3/4 page abstract, about 300 words abstract, and then after that abstract page starts an introduction with the title of the paper, and we get an introduction section. And in this introduction section, in about no more than 2 pages, you summarize what your hypothesis is, what your theory is, and which country or which data you are using to apply that argument, and then you make an introduction, and then summarize how you are organizing the remainder of the paper. Then comes what I call a theoretical section, a section which not only explain the theory and put forward the hypothesis and make some theoretical argument, but it also includes in that section a vast literature survey, because it doesn't matter what topic you have selected, you will have a vast literature on that topic, either done by other people on similar data or same data, or in some other country if it is a macroeconomic hypothesis, and you just summarize most of the theoretical argument that is related in that field in that section. And once that theoretical section is done, which could be about anywhere between 8 to 12 pages, that would also point out what is the contribution of your paper in comparison to all this literature survey you are doing, and explain the theory. Then comes a section which I call an empirical section. And in that empirical section, you have a explanation of the data sources, explanation of the data, and then you use the data to test the theory of section 1. And you can do this testing by many different ways. The simplest way is to get the data, draw some graphs, make some forecasting how these curves are headed in which direction, and share some light on what the future belongs for that series. Then some people also just look at the data and make some observation, statistical observation, calculate the mean or explain some general tendency of that series. And then there are those who know advanced econometric techniques. They probably use a regression analysis in this empirical section, and then they estimate that model, put a dependent variable on one side, put independent variable on the other side, and then do the F statistics and a T statistics test. Sometimes just do E-views and then vector autoregressive VAR technique. And there are all kinds of jargons and tests, and there are all kinds of tests that one can run on that data. There is also something called having the data, the stationarity test as well. And you can do all these econometric techniques and then do some forecasting by using that technique also. If you do the econometric techniques, then usually the referees of the journal like that better than just having the graphs and the charts and just do a casual observation of the data, because econometrics, in fact, points out how significant is the explanatory variable to explain the fluctuations in the dependent variable. And if you are able to do that, then it carries a greater value. And if the model is actually working very well, by saying that the model actually works, we mean our test results are consistent with what model is talking about. For example, if the model is saying that as the income of the consumer increases, his or her consumption will go up, then you can easily take the income data, consumption data, and if that's what you find, then you can actually get the rate at which the consumption is changing when the income goes up, and and we call that marginal propensity to consume. And then in similar way for all other theoretical models, we do the same thing. We make these tests in econometric terms, and then comes a section of what I just call a summary and conclusion. And in the summary and conclusion, we say what happens with this model and what the test has shown for you. So all in all, and then obviously there is a page of bibliography and references where you have taken all those empirical research in first section, how you have used the techniques in the second section. So all that stuff is in bibliography and references page. And usually this paper will be about 20, 25, 30 at the most. In fact, some journals don't even accept articles more than 30 pages typed. And therefore that's how a paper is done. And I've been doing all this kind of papers for almost 44 years now in my life. And we have published a lot of papers together with my co-authors, and many of those are the PhD students who do it. So even PhD students can take on a project like this. It doesn't matter whether you're in humanities or social sciences. All kinds of subjects probably do a similar format and do the test of the hypothesis in this fashion. So that is the story of how we have been doing research for all these years as far as publishable research is concerned. Well, as far as the PhD thesis is concerned, we just expand all of these sections to almost 300 pages. So literature survey takes a whole lot different meaning when you are completing a PhD thesis. It could be about 20, 25 page literature survey, because your topic could be much broader, needs a little longer work. And that's why candidates usually take 1 or 2 or even 3 years to finish their PhD, because for 2 years or so, you just do a lot of literature survey. You do a much more complex model than just one equation model, or even 5 equation model. One can have a 10 equation model in a PhD thesis. And overall, the general equilibrium model or models which need a whole lot more data are tested in PhD thesis. And once that PhD thesis once that PhD thesis is done in 2 or 2.5 years, then you once your advisor agrees that this is a substantial work, then it is sent to examiners to make sure that this substantial work is acceptable as a job for the whole PhD and the PhD work, and then PhD is granted. So I think that's the way things work everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter whether it's Europe, America, India, Pakistan, anywhere in the world. Doing PhD and doing research involves this type of work. And as I said, I have seen a lot of these works being done by other people. I have done myself some work, and that's what we have been doing for all these 30, 40, 50 years for this humongous amount of PhD candidates and PhD production that universities usually do. And once you get the PhD, then you start teaching other students how to the rules of the game and the tricks of the trade. And then once you teach all of that to them, and then they become your student. And probably, well, in all these efforts, however, the objective is obviously to come up with some kind of a substantial argument that will shed some light on how we think as a scientist, and how our science as a whole is affecting the working of the general public. So it doesn't matter if it's chemistry, physics, biology, or social sciences like politics or economics or psychology or anthropology. We have about the same idea how our science is important to shed some light in reality. And once we have achieved something like that, then that not only gives incentive for other people to do similar work, but it also gives a new small amount of new knowledge for us to move ahead. And therefore this is an important work. I think it is a very important work for education as a whole, because it's a learning process. It is also a learning process in the research methods. And I think both are important. How you do research is equally important as what kind of research or why are you doing all this stuff is also important. And once you answer those questions, then you can apply that in your real life. And then if you don't get an academic job, if you are in a non-academic job, then companies and governments, they also want to have similar other projects for you to complete and find out whether those projects are worthwhile or not, and they do some kind of a cost-benefit analysis. And I think that's what the research is all about. Well, if that's what research is all about, and if that's what makes you a learned person or educated person, then obviously a student or researcher should do a lot of publication of their articles, as well as their PhD thesis and the books and whatnot. But what has happened in last 3 months or so, as all of you probably know, is that we have gotten a big mend. We have gotten a big break in all this research project and the research methods. And that break or the mend has happened because of obviously this worldwide pandemic. I know the modern data show that about 150 countries are affected one way or the other with the pandemic. Therefore, there are only about 196, 197 countries in the world. So if 150 out of 196 got the pandemic going and the coronavirus patients in there, then it is in fact a very serious situation. Of course, a situation which is so unique that no living person has ever gone through this. I know. I'm only 67 years old, but I haven't gone through any of this either. If you're younger than me, then definitely you haven't seen anything like this. So clearly this coronavirus thing has made us not only homebound, but that has also made us change our research methods. And so the question is, how can we do research now that we have to do the social distancing in our behavior? How can we do the research when we are homebound and hunkered in one 10 by 10 or whatever size room? Question is, how do we do it? And the answer is, I think it's a two-word answer, and the two-word answer is online sources and online resources. Because now you are forced to do almost everything on computer. And if you cannot leave the house, then your literature survey has to be on computer, your writing has to be on computer, your econometric models have to be on computer too. And in terms of doing research in future by using computer alone, there are several sources. Of course, you can search them online also for all these sources, but there are several sources one can find about research. One of my favorite source for online research is a website which is not only vibrant but very, very useful for me. And I'm quite sure it will be useful for you too. Whenever I teach my upper division and my graduate classes, MA and PhD classes, I always tell them that you better be a member of a website called www. One word, ResearchGate. So Research Gate, GATE, one word, .net. So it is not .com, it is .net. So researchgate.net is a website which all of you should be a member of, because the membership is free. All you need is an email, hopefully associated with your institution. So if you are a student, or if you are a faculty member, or if you are just a researcher in an institution, then they don't ever say no to you, because there are clearly 10 or 15 million members of that researchgate.net. And researchgate.net is a website which collects, or which invites, roughly 4 million researchers all over the world to put their work on that website. And I know if you become a member and if you type my name on it, then you will see all my 178 journal articles are listed there. All my 10 books have information about the books in there too. So I have all those articles already loaded, because in one summer I took that as a project. I just had a assistant who could just load all my work on researchgate.net. And on researchgate.net, you can, if the author doesn't have time to put their actual work in there, then you can request that author, would you please email me your paper? And most of the authors are pretty nice, so they will send it to you by email too. So whenever I have to do a research, the first place I go to is the researchgate.net. And I just put it in there in a search, my topic of my interest, and out pops a list of articles which have been in that area and which are published by different researchers there. And it just tells you who the author is and the journal is and everything. So, and as I said, you probably get a opportunity to download the whole work. If not, you can contact the author and they will probably send you the work, and then you can download from that. But that's how I will do my my literature survey. Well, there are a bunch of econometric modeling. If you want to use econometrics model, then the work is done on a program or a website called Stata, Stata, and the Stata has econometric techniques loaded on there. They not only do all that, do the econometric work, but they also help you get the data from outside. There are a lot of data resources on Stata as well. Well, Stata.com is not really a free source, however, because they do all the regressions for you. You have to pay. You have to pay. Well, in US, we obviously pay a little bit more than in India, but we'll pay about $100 to $120. Students pay only $50 for the whole year membership of Stata, and then you can run the regressions on that very easily, and then find out what the research. So both these sources are excellent in terms of getting started and doing the research. And when coronavirus is making us stay at home, then we have to channel our energies into more research online. And the way to do this online research is obviously to do all that. But that also means that if you are a researcher, you have to be a good typist, because now typing is and for the young generation, typing is built in their blood, because right from their childhood, if you are a millennial and if you are born after 2000, then you already know how to type and do the iPhone typing and all. So you just have to learn faster and be a good typist. I'm not a very good typist. I'm an old timer. We had to take typing classes when I was young. And there used to be some manual typewriters in those days when I was 20-year-old. And that time we actually had a typing classes. And I took typing classes for about three months to get the feel of typing. I can type okay now, but you have to be a good typist to do good research nowadays. Almost everybody is doing their own typing. Well, in old times, we used to have a typist with us too. So we used to write everything by hand on a paper, and the typist will type all that on a typewriter and give us the typed papers. Of course, those days are all gone, and this is just for old folks to remember all those things that we used to do business in that fashion long time ago, but not anymore. I think you have to be in front of the computer and be a good typist. So, which obviously means for a good researcher now, you have to be a smart typist. You have to be a smart person in terms of getting the sources where you can find new new literature either being published or undertaken. And I would definitely find other sources where I'm a member, where most of the free literature is available. I think be a member of a newspaper, a monthly magazine, or the journal, and there are a lot of journals that allow you to go to their website and download whatever is published in there before. So essentially, with all these library, I know this is really funny that I published a couple of books in last 5 years, and I published like 3 or 4 books in last 10 years. But whenever I publish a book and I have a hard copy, I just feel very proud of it. So I just go to a library in our university as well as other universities where I'm attached to, and I tell the librarian, here is my book. And would you like to, I will donate this copy to you. Would you like to put it in the library so my students can look at it? Well, nowadays, in modern times, you won't believe this, but librarians usually tell me that they don't have any place for new books anymore, because most of the library is now converted into computer labs. They are just getting rid of the actual bookshelves. And I know Dr. Sundaram will attest to that he would agree. that nowadays there are no bookshelves in the library. All they have is a computer room, computer labs, and students work on computer more than the actual hard copy of a book. So they don't really look at it. So once you have a computer at home, otherwise you go to the library and use that computer. We barely look at hard copies nowadays because everything is available on computer, and that's how you want to adapt to this computerization of the modern research methods. And all these research methods of modern times will will probably help you be a good researcher also. Now I know, coming to examining some PhD thesis, and I do that with several universities in India, in US, uh, and I've done some IIT PhD thesis as well. But I find that in general, Indian students are very good at doing surveys, getting the primary data, doing the tables, explaining the characteristics of the respondents, and all that stuff is well and good, and all that stuff is important. But now I think we want to change our ways in such a way that there is a whole lot more computerization of the data collection as well. So your surveys have to be on computer nowadays. Send them to people who are ready to respond, and expect some response rate from that, because not everybody is interested in responding on email, especially in India. I think same thing in the US, that in US also some people will just look at a survey and would say, I don't want to participate in this. And then your response rate is pretty low. So you have to worry about that, and get some primary data. If not, you get the secondary data. Somebody has already done that for you, and you use the secondary data to test your model. But all in all, I think that's what the modern research requires. And if you want to be a researcher for the future, you should adapt these ways as quickly as possible, and adapt to all these ways as quickly as possible, because um, without that coronavirus like things will make your life that much harder. I think this becoming more computerized for a long time. For about 20 years or so, there was this shift of people doing more and more computer work. All coronavirus has done is that it has moved us from gear 1 to gear 5 in just 3 months or so, because it has just made the whole process 5 times faster than before. So I think we all researchers will adapt to these new ways. We all researchers will do a good job of doing that too, because the important thing is that we as a scientist, we want to expand our science by making it as relevant to real world as possible. Because as I mentioned in my early part of this talk, that if you are not able to do that, then it's not worth doing it. Because I think using the theory to explain the realistic phenomena is the main objective of any science. And if you are going to do that on all computer, I think that's what is needed for us to do. And I know I have been talking for about 25, 30 minutes now, but but let me conclude that the traditional ways of doing research are changing. They have been changing for last 20 years or so. And no thanks to coronavirus, but that change has increased multifold in last 2-3 months. And therefore, the changing our research methods is very important. And that takes me to a next very important point, and that is about the future of higher education. because coronavirus has really made the higher education as well as the high school education a completely different playground now. Because even in US, we our university where I teach, Metropolitan State University of Denver, has already decided, and there are at least 10 or 15 that I know, they have already decided that the whole 2020 year will be taught on computer. So my next teaching will not be done in the class until January of 2021. So next 8 months or so, we will use, I know, there is some complaints about Zoom as a company, but so you don't like Zoom, but that's okay. Some people don't like Zoom. I like Zoom, but actually Zoom is a very American company. It's owned by a Chinese American young man, and it has been a very good company. Has done a good job of giving this resource. But we are most of our teaching is on the Zoom or Microsoft Team or some other computer assisted program. And in order for this change in higher education to be accepted all over, we want to have more and more computerization. I guess that is the only way we can keep the social distancing. That is the only way we can communicate with each other, and we can do some meaningful production of research in the future, like we have been doing for all these years. Because I know, as far as uh, I'm concerned, for last 50 years or so, I've been observing academic research, participating in it for the last 45 years or so. But in all these years, I have learned a very important lesson. And the important lesson is that we need to communicate with a lot of people, not just in our not in just our city, not in our neighborhood, not in our state and a country, but also globally or internationally. And when there is a publication of more and more important literature like that, that only gives us a better understanding of how, as a person, we become better off in the future by doing all this research. And good luck to you. Good luck to all those who are doing fantastic research for such a long time. If you are one of them, try to mend your way and be more computer savvy. If you already are not, if you are a inspiring student, then you already know the direction of the future research, and you learn those techniques quickly. And with that kind of a message, I will finish my talk here. Again, thank you very much for Dr. Sundaram and Dr. Gunasekaran for having me here. I hope this is a very successful conference, and I look forward to seeing its report. And if you have to communicate with me, you can just go to kulkarnibooks.com, www. My last name Kulkarni, books, plural word, one word, Kulkarni Books, and then .com. That's my personal website. And if you go on kulkarnibooks.com, you have all my information, probably more information than you would be willing to look at. But take a look at that, and if you have to contact me from there, and I'll be happy to communicate with you, because I have been communicating with my friends all over the world for very many years, and I continue to do that. Very good. Well, I hope you stay you stay safe and healthy, and this thing goes away as we find vaccine and cure for coronavirus. And good luck to you. And I look forward to staying in contact. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Your talk was so nice, and I would see your more than 4 decades of experience in higher education. We were able to recollect and say extempore of complete experience.
So did it go as per your expectation? Is that what you wanted me to do?
Because young researchers in India, they'll be happy and they'll be enriched with your input that how to go about in that research.
You got the message well, right?
Yeah, I got the message. And I have some clarifications, sir. One thing,
Okay.
for the beginners, especially young researchers, what is your advice? Whether they can go theoretical base or empirical base?
Well, I think the beginning is going purely theoretical at the beginning is very, very hard. Unless you are some kind of a genius, you don't really come up with a theoretically very modern, new kind of model. So I think if you are an inspiring a beginner, then you need to know how others have done it. So I remember when I was in my master's and my professors were all the talking about was Keynes and according to Keynes and according to Keynes. So I just got tired of listening to Keynes. So I went to the library and I just picked up the copy of the General Theory and tried to read it because I just want to know how the heck did he write that General Theory or what is involved in that theory. So as a young person, you need to know how other people have done it, especially those who have got a Nobel Prize or very famous or who have done some kind of a new research. Once you know that, then you probably get idea how you probably do a theoretically different modeling.
Thank you, sir. And another one, among the Indian researchers, they submit their PhD compared to the Indian way of presenting a research thesis and American way of presenting a research thesis. Do you find any difference in their approaches?
Well, as I said, I think Indians probably do more of a primary data and Americans do more of a secondary data. We don't really have a whole lot of surveys that we do in Indian style that Indians are always good at doing. They like to go to slum areas, have respondents there, and then do some hypothesis testing. Well, Americans don't really do any of that. I think they do most of the research online by email surveys rather than the actual surveys. And I think that is the major difference. That is the major difference.
How the theses are examined, Professor?
The thesis examination here?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very easy. I think it's nothing compared to what University of Madras does. Because we don't send our thesis to anybody outside US. In fact, we don't even send our thesis anywhere outside our department. And in the department, you have usually a 4-member committee. Your chairman is there, and there are 3 other members. And as long as you convince the whole committee that this is a substantial research acceptable for a PhD granting, then you are granted. When I was a graduate student, 76 to 80, that time we needed a outside the department member on the committee, and that was number 5. So there were 5 members, and the 5th member was outside it. Mine was from marketing department. In fact, I don't know why, but University of Pittsburgh had this weird requirement that you have to take a 1-term class, which is a non-economics class. So you could take psychology, philosophy. I took marketing, and the lady who taught me the marketing class, I just invited her to be my committee member, and she was my committee member. But 1 member had to be outside economics, but 3 members from economics and 1. Nowadays, most of the time, the advisor is the main, and there are probably only 2 or some universities need 3 members. But committee is what you have to satisfy. And these are pretty demanding committee members because they don't really accept the work unless they are convinced that this is really a substantial work. I was kind of a different student. I had 6 members in my committee because my dissertation was on Netherlands, so there was a Dutch professor. So I said, give me a Dutch view. So I had him on the committee too. But one of my committee members said that you need to do more work. He was the only one. And he said, you need to do more work on your model. And unless you do that, I'm not signing your dissertation. And if I don't sign, then everybody else would resign too. And then you will be in big trouble. So he actually scolded me. So he gave me, of course, he gave me a direction how I want to do it in those days. And I did it. I satisfied him. But we had to satisfy all these people.
Who will decide the committee?
And then the defense also is about an hour. Other graduate students come there. Nobody really asks questions. It's basically just the committee that asks you questions.
Thank you, sir. Another one will complete it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. And I did it just because of you guys, because I declined at least 4 so far, and I probably will decline more too. And the main thing is the time. Look, our time is so. Thanks for being ready to record this.
Yeah.
Because your 11 or 12 o'clock there is 12 o'clock here. We are about 11 and a half hours different. And I don't really want to get up in the night and talk to any audience. I think I will talk in the sleep, and then they wouldn't know what the heck is happening.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thanks for being ready to record this. Do let me know how it goes and what the response is.
It's telecasted in the YouTube. I will send you the link, sir, once it is completed.
And you are going to put this on YouTube also?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, send me the link of everything. And good luck to you. And you both owe me a masala dosa in Saravana Bhavan when I am in Chennai.
That's Saravana Bhavan. It is Woodlands.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Will stop recording?
Yeah.
Good morning, all of you. We had a very good session from Dr. Kishore Kulkarni. I hope the video presentation was nice. It was recorded 2-3 days before. I think it gave us some momentum, especially to the beginners and also to the experienced people, and how to go about in the research work, presentation, and other things. Thank you for the cooperation. Now we move on to the next speaker in the agenda, Dr. Sarath Chandran. Dr. Sarath Chandran is an MA, MPhil, and PhD in economics. He holds various positions like Executive Committee member, Indian Economic Association, General Secretary, Goa Economic Association, Academic Council member, Goa University, member, University Court, former Goa University, Vice President, University College Teachers Association of Goa, UCTAG, former General Secretary, University College Teachers Association of Goa, UCTAG, and he is also a research guide with his parent university. To his credit, he is having number of awards and scholarships. Awarded the B.K.R.V. Rao Fellowship for PhD program at the Institute for Social and Economic Change, ISEC, Bangalore, in the year 1996. Awarded Nanjitappa Endowment Prize for securing highest marks in the pre-PhD course work at the Institute of Social and Economic Change, Bangalore, during the year 1997. Secured first rank in MA Economics from Loyola College Autonomous, Madras, during the year 1993. Secured with rank in BA Economics from Madras University. He studied our college, Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda College, during 1991. Adjudged the best volunteer in community social service during the master's degree program in Loyola College. Dr. Sarath Chandran has more than 25 publications in various international and national level recognized journals, and has also actively participated in the seminars and conferences worldwide. Dr. Sarath Chandran has authored 3 books, of which his book on entrepreneurship and labor in informal sector, then microeconomics and quality sustenance and enhancement in teaching, learning and evaluation of HEIS concerns is in a digital age, or highly appreciated among the teaching community. He has also published in chapters in about 4 books. Furthermore, Dr. Sarath Chandran has been invited as a resource person, chairperson, and chairman in various national and international level programs in India. He is presently Associate Professor of Economics in Goa University. And now I request Dr. Sarath Chandran to take over his session on the theme selection and formulation of research problem. One reminder to the participant, you can share your views using chat box in both the Zoom and YouTube platform, which will be taken for discussion at the end of this session. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Sarath Chandran. Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear
Good morning,
me?
sir. Yes, sir. Is it audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you hear
yes.
me?
Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear?
I hear me. I hear you,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Sir,
sir. Okay.
sir, please, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, the screen is visible, sir?
It is visible.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir.
Share screen. Shall we do it?
No, sir. I'll just start then. Yeah.
Okay.
A very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank my teacher, Professor Tirunavukarasu, for giving this wonderful opportunity of meeting a lot of academic people in a COVID-affected world. And I'm extremely happy that I'm meeting all of you in this morning. And I heard that some of the research scholars who are in their early stages of their research is also attending this particular webinar. And again, I would like to thank, if I can come before you and speak before you, it is purely because of my teachers like Tirunavukarasu sir, who has taught me in my formative years, and that has helped me to get into academics and whatever position we are holding. Extremely thankful to you, sir. I need your blessings. The topic of today's presentation is identification of a research problem and how to formulate the research problem. And this is a very, very important issue for a young scholar who is starting his research. How to formulate a research problem correctly, appropriately, how to formulate it so that a meaningful research can be carried out and a tangible outcome can be generated from that particular process. In that context, selection is fundamental, formulation is paramount, and if it is successfully done, most of the problems associated with the research can be, by and large, can be satisfied. Look at this small diagram here, a confused man, maybe a young scholar, how to proceed towards research. And it is a very confused state. There is a tendency that he may falter at that stage. So it is very important to know what kind of a path, what kind of a procedure, what kind of a methods one should adopt so that he can go towards a better research. All those difficulties, all those deviations, all those biases, all those limitations can be minimized, and whatever research outcome he is aiming for can be as close as the reality, and then that means he can produce a research output, and both that research output, that research output.
Sorry for the interruption, sir.
Yeah.
Can we do the share screen? Your PPT is.
Yes.
Yes, sir, it is ready.
Okay. Okay, so that's why it is very important to know the different methods. Right side of the diagram, a confident man knows how to scale up the procedures and ultimately reach a good research. Now, let me start with a brief idea about what a research is. Research is a systematic approach to obtaining and confirming new and reliable knowledge. So I have highlighted three words: systematic, because the procedures, steps followed in research should be very, very important. And if we follow the right approach, right methodology, that can lead to a research which is more reliable. Reliable means the outcome which can be used by larger population. And also it should be new. There is no point of trying to reproduce whatever which is already known to people. Okay, what value addition we are making to the existing research is very, very important. Okay, everybody is interested to know what is your contribution to the existing knowledge. So the research is always the value addition. What is the additional information the researcher is producing? So he has to follow a systematic and orderly method, various steps to be followed, and okay, the knowledge should be new, which is more reliable. Now, it is also important to know what is not a research. Many times people confuse what is research and, for example, accidental discovery. You are doing something, suddenly you are finding something, and you are saying that this is a research outcome of my mind. That means you have not followed a systematic method of research, and it is accidentally happened. And since it is accidentally happened, you don't know how far this can be replicable to the larger population. And also sometimes people collect data and present data. So mere data collection cannot be a cannot be a research. And whatever data, what inferences you are making through a rigorous and careful analysis, and that is much more important than presenting the data as it is. Also, searching out published research results in libraries also not research. Sometimes some of us, we go and look out for various reports from RBI or very government agencies, that table as such, we will take it and reproduce it and say that, okay, this is a result. That is not a result because the research process has not really happened there. So this is a typical research process most of us are familiar with. I just run through it so that just to get an idea how the process involved. The first step is the research question, formulating the research question or a research problem, and that is fundamental. And if we are not formulating the research question problem properly, and the error, if we are making any, that can lead towards further error, and there will be deviations. And by the time we make an analysis and interpreting the result may not be corresponding to the research problem, mainly because we have not formulated the research question correctly, appropriately. So from the research question, goals and objective, we have to state what is our research problem. From there, we come to specific objectives. And once our objectives and hypotheses are clearly stated, then we have to think about the research design. The research design is like a blueprint. When we want to construct a house, if there is a blueprint is ready, we know how it is going to look like. What are the facilities inside? What are the layout of the rooms? All those things are clearly stated, and you can clearly build your house whatever you have planned for. The same logic applies to a research. When a clearly crafted research design is there, and in that the researcher will be showing what are the various methods and methodologies he is going to follow, and then the research is going to be a good research. Once a design is created, corrected, perfected, then we go towards collection of data, and then we analyze the data, we get the results, and we start interpretation of the result. This is a usual process of the research. Now, here we have given from formulation can lead to a formulation of hypothesis, formulation of research design, then the collection start, then the analysis and interpretation of data, and finally generalization. Here, one thing I would like to highlight is this need not be always a linear fashion. Means one need not necessarily always lead to other. Sometimes we can always come back and correct some of the earlier things based on our experiences. For example, we go to a field, collect a primary data, And when we collected primary data, we have got some insights from the field, and that insights may be helpful for slightly reformulating how we have formulated our hypothesis, or what kind of tools and techniques we are planning. So it's not always a linear fashion. It's always go step forward. We may learn, get more insights, maybe come back and slightly modify and perfect our earlier procedure. So that way, that some symbiotic relationship is also possible. Now, from topics to question, from a research topic, how we move towards a research question. Here, we need to know the distinction between a subject and a topic. A subject is a broad area of knowledge, like economics is a subject, political science is a subject, climate change can be a subject, where topic is something specific interest within the area. Okay, we have identified area, we are looking for a specific issue in that area, that can be a research topic. Okay, so research topic is an approach to the research, one that asks a question whose answer solves the problem. So research topic means we ask a question, we need an answer to that question. That answer can solve some of the research problem or research issues we have highlighted. Now, also understand questions. Sometimes people ask, is there any difference between research questions and research problems? There can be a slight difference. For example, we can always ask questions. Okay, we can ask whether American president is going to marry again. That's a question that can have an answer, right? But research problem is something we are asking something, a solution we are getting from the problem can be used for the larger interest of the researcher of the society, right? So most of the research questions we are asking are research problem because we are trying to get a solution to the problem, and that solution can be used for further advancement of our knowledge, our domain knowledge, or our expertise, or in the larger interest of the society, right? Once we have clarified the topic, identify one or two promising ones. When you write down 10 research questions or 10 research problems, all cannot be studied, all need not be very important, and you can identify one or two things which is very interesting to you, very intriguing to you, and which may the answer to that problem can have a lot of value, right? So that's the way we identify one or two promising research topic, right? When we do a narrowing down, and we should be very careful, and it's a very delicate job. When you keep on, people say narrow down your topic, but don't narrow down to such a level that it's a mere, you are just mere collecting mere information. How many number of corona cases India is having, and one number, okay, 3,000 can be a number. That kind of a narrowing down cannot add value to a research problem, right? And whenever you formulate research questions, always keep in mind, okay, this research question can give answer to a, so those research questions, research problems which are not going to give you a specific answer, okay, it's in a way it's not that very useful, and that cannot be formulated, right? And once all those things, topics are identified, narrowed down, you come to one or two specific problems you want to study, again do a kind of a fact checking, evaluate the questions. And when you evaluating, please see whether these questions are already settled facts, already researched by someone else somewhere in the country or abroad, and that issue is settled, or this still the problem is live and needs further research. Whether the problem is just mere speculative problem, okay, that cannot be considered, are dead ends. Dead end means the problem which is not leading towards a solution, and you are after spending considerable amount of time, and if you are not getting a solution, then you don't know where to go. Those kind of problems, it is very important to avoid those kind of problems. And finally, so what and so that. Finally, you decided a research problem, and they say, you say that this is a problem I'm going to study, and somebody says, so what is my what why should I bother about it? What is my interest, or what is society's interest, or what is the interest of the academic community, right? It is you are interested, you want to study, are it leading to the larger interest of the uh, uh, society? It's going to improve the domain knowledge, it's going to make somebody's life easier, okay, it's going to add value to the society. That is very important. So whenever you formulate a research problem, it's not just formulate the problem. So by studying this problem, so that we can do all these benefit, all those issues can be addressed of the society. So it is not just stating, okay, stating in such a way that this research problem can leads to the betterment of the society. And we are all familiar this research funnel, okay, and from a broader, larger research topic, finally how you narrow down to a specific research objective, okay. So you start with a general area, then start reading a lot of things, and finally reading will give a lot of insights to you, and that reading will give you, okay, what is available in the literature, what is not available. In a way, it will lead towards the identification of the research gap, right? So you can identify the gap and fill the gap by proposing your study, okay, that is leading to a statement of the problem, the research objectives, and that's the way you narrow down your research. So when we think of formulating a research problem, there are 4 dimensions to it. One dimension is sources of identifying the problem. There are various sources from which a young scholar or even an experienced scholar can get research topic for his research. Okay, and then once the problem is arrived at, and he has to define the problem properly so that a research can be conducted. From the definition statement of the research problem, it can lead towards the objectives and again formulation of various hypotheses. Okay, so when we say formulation, these 4 dimensions are interrelated, are linked to each other, and it's better to understand how they are connected to each other, right? And the research problem, when we talk about, please also remember, okay, research problem situates within a context. You cannot study a research problem without properly understanding the context in which the problem is existing. This is very important for a subject, social science subjects, particularly sociology, economics, right? When we study various issues pertaining to the society, and if you just pinpoint the problem and try to study, you are missing out the larger picture, okay? In what context this is happening, and what is the situation, why these are they are behaving particular way, whether the society, the environment, larger milieu in which they are living, it's are they influencing. These are very important. So please don't ignore the context. Always, as far as possible, you try to look the problem in the larger context so that we can study the problem in a better uh, frame of the research problem. And each research has a purpose. We are not doing research for time pass, for getting a degree or something else. It has a purpose. This research can give you, it can be a purpose in terms of enhancement of our knowledge, it can be something improving your skill sets, it can be solving the problem of a people who are very much affected by that particular issue. There are so many purpose. So keep that purpose in mind. What is the purpose of my research? What I am trying to ultimately trying to achieve, what I am trying to get out of from my research, and that is very important. At the time of the initial stage itself, you need to understand the purpose, or that may be very clear, at least tentatively in the back of the mind, that purpose should be there, that can guide you through a. And finally, it should be significant, okay, and don't take a trivial topics. Sometimes people say, okay, this is I can easily do in 3 years time and submit my PhD because it's very easy to do. Our information is available, data is available, our tools and technique is well perfected, and I can just pin and plug those things and get a thesis. Is it the right approach of doing a research at the by the research young scholars? No. Young scholars should take a challenging, daunting research problem that requires a lot of burning of midnight oil, spending a lot of time, perfection, thinking, and by the time you complete your research, that research is going to be a research worth doing, and because okay, the problem is okay, the kind of rigor it warranted so much, and that is going to be a good research. Now I'm coming to the first dimension of the research problem, which I talked about. Usually there is a how to get research problem sources, particularly a PhD scholar. Some PhD people who want to join research, the first question they ask the supervisor is, sir, please give us a topic. Okay, and that means they think that they cannot formulate or they don't know how to get the topic, but there are various ways of getting. Okay, first here we talk about 4 P's. These 4 P's are an important sources of getting research problem: people, problems, programs, and phenomena. And observing the people in and around us can give a lot of research problem. Individual behavior, okay, and individual people, individual leaders, individual ideological frame, political leaders, political ideologies, okay, people, individuals, their behavior can be a source of research problem, right? Similarly, organizations. There are various organizations. For example, in economics, we have international organization, World Bank, IMF, WTO, Asian Development Bank. There are so many quasi-government organizations, private organizations. Okay, we can study their issues, and that can be a source of. And again, group behavior. Okay, self-help group is a particular group, okay, doing a particular type of economic activity. Can we study about them? There are different consumer group, producer group, various people that we can try to understand their issues and community. So people can provide. So studying the behavior of the people is a very important source of research. Second is problem. Problems need solutions, and these solutions should come from well-researched studies from experts, academicians, so that the solution can be a lasting solution, correct solution, and a permanent solution. Okay, so the issues, situations, association, needs, population composition, profile, all those things we can study the problem pertaining to various associations. Okay, water users association is an association. Okay, there is a river flowing, there is an upstream and downstream. Upstream people are using a lot of water. Downstream people are not getting water. So how we can have a kind of a water management system where all the users can have an equity and a kind of a benefit from this particular water source can be a research problem. There is an interstate river which is flowing, and there are states affected. It's a larger issue of that. Okay, and then there are population groups, various socially uh, uh, backward groups are there, depressed populations are there. Okay, those kind of people, their issues, their problem is a lot of things. I'm not going detail because the purpose is not to give the list of the details, rather to kind of what are the various sources. Then there are a lot of programs, government programs, okay, and we can study the effectiveness of various programs and how they are going to affect various stakeholders, can be an important source of research. And finally, phenomena. There are various economic phenomena, political phenomena, social phenomena happening, which has a kind of a cause and effect relationship. Okay, there are specific causes leading to a particular type and effect, and how the cause is leading in effect. Okay, and whether it is a one-to-one relationship, is there any dynamism, what are the dynamic processes involved in this cause and effect relationship, is a matter of important. One thing come to my mind is the poverty and environment, which I was doing some study some time back. Okay, question is whether poverty, acute poverty, is leading to environmental degradation, or environmental degradation is leading to poverty. This is a kind of a perplexing issue. Some people say that people are poor, they are forced to live in a bad environment like a slum, and the environment around that people is bad. They are prone to health issues, they get morbidity, mortality, their income earning capacity will come down, they have to spend money on on medical expenses, so that their part of their income, whatever little income they have, is taken away. They are leading to poverty, right? The fact that they are in poverty, they cannot make any improvement in the environmental quality. The environment deteriorates. The environmental degradation further degrades. That's a kind of a cyclical relationship. Okay, so which is leading? How they are going to study this kind of a problem? Okay, it's a kind of a researcher can look into it. Relationship, study of the phenomena. So these are the 4 P's which can supply, which can give you, okay, a lot of research problems to the young scholars. Now, when we talk about research problem, these are further sources, okay. And first and the foremost, I consider is the various theories, the stock of knowledge existing in our domain, in our subject. It's a very important. Okay, when we go through these theories, that these theories can give you a lot of new ideas and new insights. With that theoretical background in our mind, that can help us to further take our research forward. So, understanding, reading various theories existing in this subject can be a source. So you can refine it, modify it, extend it, okay, various things you can. Whether this particular thing is applicable to this particular group of people, this particular area, all those things are very important. Now, personal experience, professional questions. Okay, we as an individual has a lot of experience. Okay, we come across people, talk, we will interact, get a lot of insight. That insight can be, okay, carefully formulated into a research. Professional questions in our area. Now, economics, if I'm belong to economics, COVID. Now, that COVID itself can give a lot of topics. COVID and macroeconomic stability of the country. COVID and foreign exchange earning. COVID and informal sector employment. COVID and oil prices. COVID and so many things. The profession can throw up very challenging questions, and as a researcher, we can take those questions. And for all these things, what is fundamental is one should have creativity and imagination. And this is my request to the younger research scholars. Okay, don't try to copy, or don't try to just replicate whatever is done in your area, your research problem. Okay, so here, try as far as possible how creatively I can formulate my topic, how I can take my topic as close to reality, right? And then the research will be a lively research. Okay, so creativity and imagination of the research scholar is paramount, and make a conscious effort. Whenever you do research, you just keep on asking this question to you: am I creative enough in formulating my topic? Am I imaginative, or I just blindly following what is already done in my area or topic? Now, the next source is replication. You may ask, just now I said don't replicate. Here, replication means there may be a theory, there may be a kind of a hypothesis developed in some other part of the world, in some other context, some other population, right? And whether that can be replicable to our population, whether that holds good, or the context there is different, context different, and I need to further change it. Okay, we don't know, right? In that situation, we try to replicate these studies done abroad, different contexts, different situations, to a newer situation, newer context, whether that holds good, right? So that's why the replication studies are going to be very important. And next source of research is library search and internet. When we were research scholars, library was a very important source. We go to the library, we just go to the periodical section, take the journals, see what are the latest journals coming out. And now the situation has changed. We live in a digital age, and now all the information which are available through internet, and there are all the information, whether it is a journal, whether it is a database, whether it is working papers, occasional papers, reports, all those things are available, most of them in public domain, right? The agencies like World Bank, IMF, ADB, WTO, UNCTAD, NABARD, RBI, then various ministries, Niti Aayog. It's a huge source pool of information. And if you just go and browse and see, look upon, okay, you may stumble a topic which is of your interest. And that's a very important source of topic. Then engagement with literature. Theories I talked about. Literature means the information available in our field, right? And we try to update ourselves with the literature which is available in the domain, and naturally there will be something of our interest. Then sometimes we people, researchers, take sponsored agencies like projects, okay, ICSSR, UGC, Ministry of Environment and Forest, various government organizations are providing funded research, and we can apply for it, and the proposal is strong enough, we will get research funding. Okay, here the funding agency may outline this is our broad area of interest. Any proposal on this broad area will be considered, and so here we are getting a direction. You know which is the area you have to work on it, and that you can straight away start working on it. Issues confronting the society. It's very there are so many issues. We cannot say that there is no issues in our society. We are confronted with a large number of issues. Unemployment is an issue, perennial issue, right? From 50s to 2020, we are talking unemployment is a biggest problem of India. Okay, that it metamorphoses. It means it changes from situation to situation in various forms, various types, but the problem is relevant. And there are so many crime. There are so many issues, which is poverty, again a perennial issue. Okay, there are issues affecting society that can be considered. Problem that need urgent solutions, like COVID, which is required. Something is not done, the large humanity will be in trouble. So that kind of a thing, we need urgent solution. So people will immediately take up those kind of a research and start doing it. Finally, as a research scholar, a very important source is interaction with the supervisors, senior teachers, peers. And here, this constant interaction with the supervisors, teachers, and peers, okay, this can lead to lot of research topic. Supervisors can give a broad framework. Okay, don't try to just take as it is and protect. You have to apply your mind. You have to do a lot of thinking process. Okay, and finally you can formulate. So please remember, when you take a problem, you need to refine, you have to state it properly, and these 5 Ws, who is a player, agent involved in my research, what I am going to research, what is the time frame of my research, which is a context in which my study is placed, and what is the reason I'm doing this particular research. Always keep these questions in mind. So these questions can refine your research topic into a very precise, accurate research topic. Now, considerations. What are the considerations you have to keep in mind when you go for a research topic? Okay, and first and foremost is your interest. A researcher should be passionate about the topic. If you are passionate about your topic, you don't know how much time you are spending, right? And there is no fatigue. And day and night, you are engrossed in the topic. And that is a way you can do a very good research. On the contrary, you take a topic you are not very much interested. Somebody suggested, or somebody is so you took it because somebody said it's easy to do it, and you have no personal attachment to it, and you have to spend 4-5 years of your research. After a particular period of time, you feel that no, I'm not making headway in my research, and there is a stumbling block. I'm not able to proceed further, precisely because you are not putting the kind of effort required for making the progress. So please keep this particular thing in mind as a young research scholars. That the topic you are selecting, it should be a topic of your interest. When you take a topic of your interest, naturally that will result in a good research. Second is magnitude. A researcher should be knowledgeable about what he can manage within the time frame. Don't take a topic which you cannot manage within the time frame or within the time, energy, resources. For example, please understand the topic we are taking for a MA project is different from a topic we are taking for an MPhil dissertation is different from a topic we are selecting for a PhD. And for a major research, it will be totally different. And if a World Bank funded or any other international agency funded, it is much complex. So you decide, okay, what is the appropriate magnitude of the problem which I can study so that I can study within my limitation, within my time and energy. And also see the measurement of the concepts is possible or not. Because as a researcher, you'll be using various concepts to define your problem and study. And this measurement often creates a lot of issue. When we talk about concept, there can be variables which are qualitative in nature. There can be variables which are quantitative in nature, where there can be latent variables. All those things, measurement may require some kind of an expertise or some kind of an insights. Qualitative things very important. Okay, and you have to develop right kind of a scale to capture that. Quantitative also sometimes difficult. There are latent variables which we cannot easily directly measure. There so many attributes is determining that particular thing. So what are the attributes we have to consider to determine the latent variable? So all those issues you have to be very aware of it. Okay, am I using qualitative variable, quantitative variable? Okay, is it possible? Measurement is possible. How I am going to measure it? What is the scale I'm using it? Okay, is there any measurement error? All those things, awareness is important. When the moment you are aware, you will be careful. Then level of expertise required. See, different problems requires different types of expertise. For example, I'll tell you, I'm working in the area of international trade. Suppose I am studying a particular regional trade agreement, India's regional trade agreement with the European countries, right? Now, the India's RTA with the European Union, if India is signing, how India's trade is going to affect the rest of the world, how the import and export is going to change, how it is going to change the welfare of the consumers because of the rise in prices or fall in prices. This requires a kind of a computable general equilibrium framework. It's a very complicated general equilibrium modeling. Do I have the expertise to do that? If I don't have the expertise, is it sensible to select that kind of a topic? Okay, a researcher should be aware of it. Relevance, I've been telling all the way, the topic should be relevant and very important. Availability of data. This is particularly important for secondary database studies. Many times we may think this particular data is available, but at the time of data collection, you realize that the kind of variable you want, it's not available. There are so many other related variables, but the one you are looking forward is not available. If it is not available, then you cannot do your hypothesis testing, or you cannot do your analysis, or you are missing out something very important. But have you considered at the beginning? If you have considered at the beginning, if this non-availability of this particular data, you could have reformulated your hypothesis, your study in such a way that how to use the available data for your study. So it's very important. And finally, the ethical issues. Ethical issues are going to be very important. How you are going to study is going to affect the people, okay, the other people. Okay, your study is affecting the society. Suppose you're collecting data, are you divulging the data to somebody else so that he is getting a call from somebody else and saying something, right? So always keep in mind the study should be ethical. Whatever data you are collecting, okay, you are not giving any external effect to the people involved, or there is no adverse impact of the people, of individuals or society at large. Now, what are the criteria we can use to evaluate the research questions? It should be clear, it should be researchable, okay, and connections with the established theory and research. Research questions should be linked with each other, original contribution, and it should be neither broad or too narrow. And you have to logically state your research questions based on the established theory and research. And in that process, okay, you also ensure that you are making some original contributions to the field, and you define in such a way that it is precisely, it's not too broad, it's not too narrow, and you can do the research. And also, the researcher should ensure it is the feasibility of the study. Look at your competence, how competent you are, your enthusiasm to do this particular research, how much money you have at your disposal to do this study, whether it's feasible within that amount of money. Do you need any administrative permissions from various agencies to get the information, and that the time frame involved, within the time frame are you in a position to complete the study, right? And always keep research focused. And okay, the question is, somebody will ask you, okay, why research questions? Because the research questions will always focus uh, your study and keep track of it, okay? And also, if you formulate the research question, okay, you can finally end up completing your thesis if you're writing a paper, and you can publish a good paper. So keeping a research question is always useful. Now, steps in formulating research. There are 7 or 8 steps. Quickly, I'll run through it. First is identification of the broad area that is interest you. Sometimes my area of interest is international trade. Somebody else will say, I want to work in agriculture. Somebody will say finance. Then once you identify the broad area, then dissect the broad area into sub areas. Okay. What I have done in my area, this is international economics is going to be my area. And in that, I'm going to work on regional trade agreements. Similarly, somebody is working in the area of agriculture will say, I'm going to work on agriculture marketing. Somebody will say, I'm going to work in irrigation. Somebody will say, I'm going to work in agricultural labor. Somebody is going to work in agriculture production function. Okay, you come down to a sub area. Then select what is
Hello to everyone. I think some network problem in Goa area. Just bear with us.
Sir, can you hear?
We hear you. Yeah, please,
Okay.
please continue.
Okay. I don't know where which part the audio went off. I don't know.
It's okay.
Okay. Right. 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 Okay. Okay. So these are the checks steps in formulating a broad area. Come to a specific area. Then what is your research problem? Raise research questions. Then formulate the research objectives. Assess your objectives whether it is feasible or not. Do all kind of a double check. Okay, so that it is a uh, uh, well formulated research topic. And when you write a research question, it can be a descriptive question. Descriptive means you just describe the phenomena, or sometimes the research question can be a non-experimental relationship. Okay, you just want to know the relationship between a particular economic variable and another kind of variable, and what kind of an economic relationship is existing. And third is a kind of an experimental relationship. You collect data and try to see what kind of a relationship, whether it is a there is a correlation or the association existing between that. You will test through various type of hypothesis testing. So there are different ways of stating your research questions. Now, after writing the research questions, you have to state the research statement of the research problem. And a research statement is you just precisely state what you are going to do. After doing all those things, you want to clearly state, this is what I want to do. And that statement is sometimes a single statement or one or two statement, very systematically stated. Okay, it may have a research questions, and it will talk about the variables, what kind of a relationship you are looking into those variables, and what is the significance of studying, what is a novelty involved in the study, and what is the feasibility involved. All those things are clearly stated in the statement of the problem. And when you do the research statement, when you write the research statement, and you see, okay, what is to be what you are looking into. Okay, what kind of significant results you are looking into, that you clearly state. Next one, sir. Okay. Now, so two dimensions we have looked into. First is we have so what are the sources of the topics we have looked into. Then we say the research statement, how you are going to define it, how you are going to state it. Then the research statement should lead towards the research objectives, right? Research objectives are the goals you are trying to achieve in your study. And the research objectives can be of two types. There can be a main objective, which is a overarching statement of your research problem. And this overarching objectives can be further divided into sub objectives based on the specific issues you are looking into. So there can be an overall main objective, and there can be specific aspects of specific objective. When you write your objective, okay, you try to write your objective as clear as possible, and you write your objectives in a very complete statement. Don't write something means sometimes uh, you don't know what is the kind of a relationship you are looking forward. By reading the sentence, you can't make out. So write a objective in a very complete fashion. Suppose you are trying to trying to see the relationship between two. See what is the relationship, what you are looking for, what is the direction of the relationship. Very clearly, okay, you specify. Okay, and it should be specific, and identify what are the variables which are related to the particular research objective, and also the direction. Sometimes you want to see that this is causing that. Okay, okay, is there something is associated with something else? Is there any cause and effect relationship, or whether it's a covariability relationship? All those associations also we should study. You should do it in the objective. So whenever we write objectives, all these factors we should keep in mind. Finally, you should know the difference between concepts and variables. Concepts, many concepts we use in our study, and many variables we use in our study. So what is a concept? Concept is a mental image or perception about the problem, which is sometimes very difficult to measure. Wherein variable is something we are capable of measurement. Hence, variables can take different values. I'll give you an example. Suppose rich is a concept, rich or poor, right? So we cannot measure richness, poorness just like that, because it's a poverty is a concept. We cannot, by looking just poverty, we don't know what is poverty, right? So this concept has to be defined in terms of, okay, some definite indicators reflecting the concept. For example, richness can be measured in terms of indicators like income of a person, the asset the person is holding, right? So that indicators we can measure, through that indicators we can understand the concept, right? And the indicators then leads to variables. For example, income. Are we talking about income of a person per year or monthly income? If you are talking about asset of a person, what is the total value of asset? What are the different assets he is having? What is the value of the house? What is the value of the car? Okay, all those things, right? So the concept, you should, as a researcher, we should understand the relationship between concept, indicators, and variables. One more thing is academic achievement is a concept. How we can measure? We have to look in for some indicators reflecting the concept, average marks scored in the examination or marks scored in the practical examination. What is the variable we can think of? Percentages of marks scored in the examination or in the practical examination. So we may use concepts in our hypothesis or objectives. Then we see that these concepts, what are the indicators which is reflecting this concepts? What is the correct indicator? There can be many indicators. What is the most appropriate indicator? From that appropriate indicator, what is the variables which is reflecting that particular indicator? The researcher should be conscious of it. Next slide. Yeah. When we talk about the variables, generally there are two types of variables, qualitative variables and quantitative variables. And qualitative, we know that it is looking to attributes of people, whereas quantitative variables we can measure in terms of numbers, and qualitative variables can be a normal variable, an ordinal variable, and a binary variable. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about, because these things are very important when we formulate questions and hypotheses. Nominal variables are variables with no inherent order. There is no ordering among, for example, gender. There can be male, female. Nowadays there is a third gender, and there is no ordering involved. The female is not above male, or male is not above female. Okay, but there are three distinct categories. Okay, and since we are measuring this gender, it's a nominal variable. There is no hierarchy in it. Sometimes this hierarchy is applicable. Then that kind of a quality variable is called an ordinal variable. For example, performance. Okay, excellent, good. Okay, average, poor, very poor. Okay, that is, excellent is better than good, good is better than average, average is better than poor, right? So that is there is a very clear ordering is there. That's why we call it as ordinal qualitative variable. Also, binary variables are, binary means by means two. There are two options. Okay, we are asking a question: have you passed in your examination? Yes, passed or fail. Or whether are you happy with something? Yes, no. You are getting two responses that are binary. So qualitative variable can be of different types. Then quantitative variables. There can be discrete quantitative variables and continuous quantitative. Discrete means specific numbers are there. Okay, number of, for example, how many coconuts are there in this particular piece of land? We can count, and 33 coconuts are there. Okay, there is a definite number. There cannot be 22.5 coconut or 33.3 coconut, right? Whereas the continuous variable, right, we try to measure the variable in terms of a particular temperature ranging from this to that. Okay, and those kind of a measurement is quantitative. Now, why I have used this kind of variables, because depending upon the kind of variable we are using, the formulation of hypothesis varies, testing of hypothesis varies, and then we can decide what is, are we using qualitative variables, what kind of hypothesis will you use, what kind of test will you use, are we using quantitative, what kind of tools and techniques we can use. So this is a whole idea of giving this classification now. Sir, next slide. Next slide, sir. Sir, next slide. Yeah. So when we talk about quantitative variable, there are four important types of nominal data, ordinal data, interval data, ratio data. These are the four nominal, no ranking is possible, male, female, okay, or what are the type of there is no distinct ranking. That is called nominal data, and we can use various tables, charts, all those things. Statistical analysis is possible. Ordinal, there is a specific order is there, like Likert scale, and here again we can use various statistical tables like a chart, frequency tables. Interval, data pertaining to a specific interval period, right? And our like a temperature or IQ score by student. Okay, there is a range within which the student is scoring, and again here also different statistical treatment is possible. And fourth and widely used is a ratio data, wherein a lot of statistical treatment, a lot of statistical analysis can be done, and that is also we can use it. Now I am coming to the interesting part of hypothesis testing. Next words. Yeah, what is a hypothesis? So here I am coming to the fourth dimension of the research problem. I talked about sources of thing, then how to formulate the research question. The second is how to define it. Okay. Third dimension, I said objectives. What are the precautions or consideration we have to have? And I'm coming to the fourth one, hypothesis testing, fourth dimension of the formulation. And we all know hypothesis is an educated guess, a claim or statement about the property of the population, right? Certain attribute of the population, we want to test it whether it is present or not present. So we form a hypothesis saying that this particular attribute is there or not there. Then we test it positively or test it and reject it, right? So that is a hypothesis. But many times people just simply formulate so many hypotheses, right? But ideally speaking, hypothesis can be used in a situation wherein a researcher is not very clear with the kind of relationship. The relationship of between the variables are not clear to the researcher. So he is assuming that there is a relationship between these two things, and then he can test it positively or reject it. Sometimes the relationship is known, and you want to see whether this known relationship is really happening this particular sample population or not. So it's a hunch or assumption or suspicion or assertion or an idea about the phenomenon, and you want to see this relationship between these two are there or not there, then you will test it. At the first stage, you formulate your assumption. Second stage, you collect the data from samples. Okay, the whole here what we are doing, we are collecting data from sample data to talk about the population, right? So then the third one, we are going to analyze and draw certain conclusion for the population, right? So these are the three stages of hypothesis testing: formulation, then the sample data collection, test it positively or negatively, then you attribute that association to the population. So when we formulate the hypothesis, please keep the hypothesis to be simple, specific, conceptually clear, and capable of verification. That means you formulate something and you are not able to test it, you are not able to reject it. There is no point in formulating that particular hypothesis. And third is, okay, should be related to the existing body of knowledge. When you formulate the hypothesis, you see that it is linked with the existing knowledge of the subject matter. Next slide. Yeah, this is a usual thing known to everybody. Convert a research question to hypothesis. You have the null hypothesis, says that no difference. Then you have alternative hypothesis. There is then you you fail to reject the null hypothesis, not you don't accept the null alternate hypothesis, and you collect data. There can be two types of errors in hypothesis testing, very known, every type 1 error, type 2 error. Type 1 error is usually symbolizes with alpha. Type 2 error is explained in terms of beta, right? The next ones. Yeah, this is a decision rule. You formed a hypothesis. The hypothesis is a true hypothesis. Actually, it is true, but you reject it. So you are rejecting something which is true. So you are experiencing an error. This in hypothesis testing is called a null type 1 error, right? Suppose the hypothesis is true, you are rejecting. It's a very fair thing. Something you are rejecting something which is a false, which is correct one. Now there is an alternative case. There is a hypothesis which is false, but you are rejecting it. Good thing. Something is wrong. You are saying it is rejecting. Okay, that is also correct decision. But there can be another mistake. Hypothesis is false, but you are failed to. You are not accepting. You fail to reject statistically, right? Then you are encountering the type 2 problem. Okay, so there can be two types of errors which the researcher can commit statistically: type 1 error and type 2 error. And ideally speaking, a researcher has to reduce type 1 error, type 2 error as low as possible, so that he is not committing a mistake, okay, error in hypothesis testing. And I think I'm coming to the last slide. It's quite a lengthy presentation, and these are some of the tests which we can use in our hypothesis testing. Okay, and here I have given two categories of testing. One is called parametric testing, the other is called non-parametric testing. These parametric and non-parametric are used for hypothesis testing. What is a parametric? We collect it in terms of numbers which are normally distributed. Okay, a normal distribution has so many statistical properties, so you can test it. And if the distribution is not normally distributed, then certain statistical tests you cannot be used. So you have a different type of test which is called a non-parametric test, right? And these are the various forms of data requirement, testing requirement for a researcher. And this is there. A researcher will know, okay, what kind of a test I can apply to my study, right? First of all, you should know my study is a parametric or non-parametric. You can go for normality test, okay, and you can say the sample is a normal data or a non-normal data. Suppose you want to compare means, okay, in a parametric you use t-test, okay. In non-parametric you use a test called Wilcoxon if there is a single sample. Suppose you want to compare two samples. You want to compare the mean mark of male students and female students. Is there any statistically they are statistically same or different? You go for a t-test in a parametric, and in a non-parametric you will go for a Mann-Whitney type of a test, right? Now you want to compare more than two means, suppose 3 or 4. In a parametric data you go for a ANOVA. The same ANOVA equivalent for a non-parametric data you go for a Friedman test, right? And suppose you want to understand the degree of association between one variable and another variable, and the popular test is called the chi-square test, right? Suppose the satisfaction of a tourist from a particular tourist destination is associated with the benefit he received. Okay, is there any association between two variables? You go for a chi-square test. Suppose the data is a ranked data. You are ranking a particular variable in terms of order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, another variable also you are ranking. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it is a parametric data, you go for a Pearson test, and if it is a non-parametric data, you go for a Spearman test, right? And similarly, comparing two variables when one variable is discrete. I already told you what is discrete and continuous, and so the larger point I'm trying to say is, when you form the question, when you think about the statement, when you talk about the concept, when you talk about the indicators, when you talk about variables, also keep in mind what kind of a tools, what kind of a hypothesis, what kind of an analysis okay, you will be using in your study, so that you can define them properly, okay, and you will be aware of it, what are the consequences you will be following. So what is the central message I'm trying to send it, right? The formulation of the research problem and identification of the problem is a fundamental step a researcher follows, right? If this fundamental step is done precisely, correctly, systematically, methodically, so many problems the researcher encounters in the later stages of the research can be minimized, and a researcher can come out with a very good, interesting and useful study to the larger audience, people and the academic community. Okay, thank you for the opportunity given. I don't know how in between I lost my contact or not. In case any specific questions for any participants, to the best of my ability I'll respond to it.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Dr. Sharat Chandran.
Thank you, sir.
Now we move on to question and answer session. Before the first question, participants, the feedback link will be shared here in the chat box soon. I request all of you to kindly fill it up to receive your e-certificate. So there are two questions. Shall I ask them?
Please, sir.
One, Ms. Saharika Saha.
Yeah.
Her question is, why a formulation of hypothesis may not be required in historical studies?
Absolutely correct. It is always said that all studies need not have hypothesis. All studies need not have objectives. Some studies will have only research questions. You will be trying to answer your research questions. Some questions, some studies will make further refinement of this research question into a specific objective, and you try to get an answer to that specific objective, and you will be at the end of the study, you will be saying that this is a kind of an answer which I got, okay, at the questions I have raised, right? Sometimes I said you need hypothesis to see kind of a relationship between variables. Sometimes this relationship is not very known to the population, and then case you just really want to see are they related to each other. If they are related to each other, how they are related. It's a positive relationship or a negative relationship. It's an association, right? And or it's a no relationship at all, right? So then that situation you will be using it. So it is not necessary that every study should have a hypothesis, right? Sometimes research questions is sufficient and you can answer them through your study. Sometimes you will define in terms of a specific objective, and if the situation of the problem requires a hypothesis, you can formulate hypothesis and test it.
Thank you. The second question by Dr. B. Monikevelu. Normally, each researcher are setting up questions, namely that personal details, socioeconomic conditions, then they are going to particular study. How do we make pure questions in a particular study area?
I don't know. I have understood the question correctly. So the profile, I understand the profile information is asked in studies and how they are used in studies. Is it correct, sir?
Yeah, it's correct.
Right. Okay. In many studies, we generally the usual format of the questionnaire or interview schedule is you keep on asking so many age, family, number of family member, educational qualification, income, educational status, so many. I don't think all those information a researcher will be using, right? So it is, ideally speaking, what is the research question you are asking, and what are the objectives? Okay, what are the indicators, what are the variables you require for your study, right? And what are the variables you require for your hypothesis? If you know them in advance, you can ask only that information because that is only relevant. Otherwise, you just one chapter, profile of the respondents, one chapter, you start with the age up to so many things, number of family members, respondent, and the question you may be asking is totally different. If you are able to link your profile information with the research question, research study, research objectives, perfect. But many times you can see the profile information and the research problem. The kind, is there any association between gender and that problem? Is there an association between age? Okay, as the age changes, this particular thing changes. Is the social stratification changes, this research problem changes? Okay, these things are relevant. Okay, so please ask those profile information which is have a connection with your research question and which you are going to test, okay, through your objectives or hypothesis. Otherwise, you are asking some information which are not really directly connected with a research problem.
Thank you, sir. The last question by Dr. M. Dilip Anand.
Yes.
Which factor affect the solution to the research problem? Which factor affect the solutions to research problem? He is asking about the research problem only.
Which factor affecting research problem, sir? Can you just make it little, I don't know what exactly he's looking into. Which factor affecting the research problems?
Yeah.
Okay, formulating a research problem, I told you how to formulate it, and we formulate research problems which are very relevant, important, which need answer. Okay, and those kind of a research problem are the problem the researcher is interested to take up, right? And you see that literature plays a very important role, right? The literature will tell you what is a kind of an existing knowledge, which is a kind of a relationship or existing in our area, okay, and which is very important, which is not so important, how they are related to each other, and that will give you some kind of a notion to start with, right? As you read and read as a researcher, when you read further, okay, and you will be definitely able to identify the most important factor, okay, and it can be depends upon the context situation. Sometimes you need an urgent solution, sometimes which is very useful or which is a controversial things, or we want to give a solution to a problem. Many it depends upon the researchers, the context in which he is doing his research.
Thank you for the excellent question and answer session. That was indeed a fantastic day of learning. I am sure this 3 days online international workshop on methods of research in social science and humanities would have kindled your interest in writing a research article or in whatever way you are pursuing your research career. Keep learning, keep writing, and keep researching. These certificates will reach all the participants in 2 days' time. I request all the participants and the resource person to kindly enable the video for a virtual photograph to save it in our memories. Thank you. Looking forward to meet you all in yet another session like this from our team. Until then, stay home and stay safe. Thank you, all of you, dear participants.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So enable your video for virtual photographs kindly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Very kind of you to all the participants. Thank you.